No one in the outer defense rings fired the first shot. That was what made the whole event feel wrong. For 211 years, the space around Earth had been watched by layers of human stations, silent satellites, defense buoys, and deep-range sensors placed far beyond the orbit of Neptune. They had one purpose. If a foreign fleet ever came into Sol, every human commander was trained to believe the same thing. An unknown fleet meant danger. A large unknown fleet meant war. So when the long-range station Archer 9 detected 37 alien vessels crossing into the edge of the solar system in perfect formation, every alarm in human space began to ring at once. But the strange part was not their number. It was their speed. They were not moving like hunters. They were moving like survivors. Commander Elias Vance stood in the observation chamber of Orbital Defense Platform Aegis, staring at the tactical display as red markers glowed above the blue map of the solar system. Earth turned slowly below the station, bright and peaceful, covered in cloud bands and city lights. From up there, the planet looked calm, untouched. That illusion lasted only until the first report came in. Confirmed visual from outer relay, said Lieutenant Marachun from the command console. Her voice was steady, but Elias knew her well enough to hear the tension under it. Alien hulls show heavy damage. Several are vending atmosphere. One ship appears to be towing another. Elias frowned. Battle damage? Looks like it. He looked again at the red fleet markers. They had entered human space in a broken shape, not in the sharp attack wedges most war fleets used. Their lines were uneven. Gaps existed where other ships should have been. Some of the vessels drifted slightly out of position, then corrected late, as if their systems were failing. This was not how a conquering fleet arrived at Earth. This was how a fleet arrived when it had nowhere else left to go. Any response to our hails? Elias asked. Not yet, Mara said. Behind them, the command deck was full of motion. Officers moved from station to station. Large screens showed distances, radiation trails, engine signatures, and weapon readings. Human defense fleets were already waking from patrol positions near Mars, Luna, and the asteroid belt. Attack cruisers were powering reactors. Missile platforms were turning. Earth's orbital shields had not been raised fully, but the systems were warm now, ready within minutes. Elias placed both hands behind his back and kept his face calm. He had spent 23 years in service. He had seen pirate raids near the outer colonies, border tension with non-human powers near the Perseus trade route, and one ugly resource conflict in the Helion Drift. But he had never seen a foreign fleet come all the way to Earth itself. No one had. Earth was not just a planet. It was the political heart of the human systems accord. It was a symbol at the center of everything humans had built after leaving their cradle and spreading across nearby stars. No foreign power came to Earth without permission, and these ships had not asked. A young signals officer looked up from his station. Commander, we're getting something. Every sound on the deck seemed to pull tight. On screen, Elias said, the main display shifted. The tactical map disappeared. In its place came a weak, flickering transmission. Static rolled across the image. For a second, there was only distortion and broken sound. Then the picture cleared enough to show a face. It was not human. The being had pale gray skin, dark eyes set deep under a narrow brow, and long, thin features that looked almost carved from stone. Blood, or something like it, was dried along one side of its neck. It wore a damaged uniform marked with symbols Elias did not recognize. Behind the figure, sparks rained from a broken wall. The room shook with distant impacts. The alien looked straight into the camera. Then, in broken but understandable trade speech, it said the last words anyone on that deck expected to hear. Earth, please. We request sanctuary. No one moved. Even the background noise of the station seemed to fade. The alien swallowed hard, as if speaking cost effort. This is Fleet Speaker Taylor, of the 7th Refuge Convoy. We are under pursuit. Our worlds are gone. Our military lines have collapsed. We ask permission to enter inner orbit and speak to your leaders. Mara looked at Elias. Sanctuary? The word felt strange in the room. Too small for the sight of 37 warships entering the human home system. Elias stepped closer to the screen. Fleet Speaker Taylor, This is Commander Elias Vance of Earth Orbital Defense. You are approaching the sovereign core of human space with an armed fleet. Explain immediately why you have come here." For a second, Taylor did not answer. The alien's eyes shifted away from the camera, as if watching something terrible just out of frame. When it looked back, the fear in those dark eyes was unmistakable. "We came because there is nowhere else," Taylor said, "and because our enemy will not stop at us." The signal shook again. Somewhere behind Taylor, lights went out. Emergency red filled the room. Mara muttered, "That ship is dying." Elias kept his voice hard. "Who is pursuing you?" Taylor hesitated. It was a small pause, barely a breath, but every trained instinct in Elias reacted to it. The alien was afraid of the answer. Not ashamed, afraid. Then the transmission cut. The screen went black. A burst of static hit the speakers, followed by silence. "Get it back," Elias ordered. "Trying," the signals officer said quickly. "Their transmission source is unstable." Another officer turned from a sensor panel. "Commander, new contact. Long-range gravitic wake. Same vector as the alien fleet. Multiple mass signatures. Too far for exact count." The deck changed in an instant. The room that had been tense before now became sharp with danger. Elias looked to the tactical display as it returned, now showing something else far beyond the alien convoy. New red points flickered at the edge of sensor range, faint and cold. Mara stared at them. "Are those the pursuers?" "Estimate," Elias asked. "Unclear," said the sensor officer. "But the wake is huge. Huge. Not a patrol group. Not raiders. Something larger." Elias felt a cold weight settle in his chest. The alien fleet had not come to threaten Earth. It had come running. And whatever followed was still coming. Within 11 minutes, the emergency session of Earth Security Command began beneath the Himalayan Council Fortress. While global networks filled with rumors, leaked images, and wild guesses, the real decisions were being made in a chamber carved into ancient rock deep below the mountains. Elias entered by secure link from orbit. His image appeared as a full-height projection beside military officers, civilian ministers, intelligence chiefs, and diplomatic advisors. At the center of the chamber sat Secretary General Leona Vale, leader of the Human Systems Accord. She was older now, silver at the temples, calm in a way only dangerous people could be calm. "Commander Vance," she said, "summarize." Elias did. He kept it brief. "Damaged alien fleet. Sanctuary request. Unknown pursuers. No clear identity yet. Weapons on alien ships still active. No hostile action taken so far." He finished, and the room entered immediate argument. "It could be deception," said Admiral Reese from Fleet Command. "A wounded convoy is a good mask. They enter close, then strike Earth before the outer fleets can form." Minister Day of Colonial Affairs shook her head. "With broken hulls and open distress calls? That is a poor way to begin an attack." "It got them into our core system," Reese replied. Another voice joined in. "If they are genuine refugees, denying them entry may force them to panic, and allowing them may get billions killed." The arguments rolled like storm waves. Elias watched and said nothing until Vale looked at him. "Your judgment." He did not answer fast. He had learned long ago that fast answers in rooms like this often led to dead people. "The fleet is armed," he said at last. "That fact cannot be ignored. But their movement, damage profile, and signal behavior do not match an assault pattern. I believe they are telling at least part of the truth." "At least part?" Vale asked. "They hid the identity of the pursuer," Elias said. "That matters." The chamber quieted slightly. Vale folded her hands. "What would you do?" "Hold them at the outer defense line near Jupiter. Deny inter-system access for now. Offer medical and repair support through remote drones. Open direct diplomatic contact under guard." He paused. "And prepare for the force behind them." Admiral Reese nodded once. He clearly disliked the situation, but he respected clean military logic when he heard it. Vale looked around the chamber. Objections? There were many, but none strong enough to break the plan. The order went out minutes later. The alien convoy would be allowed no farther than the Jovian defensive perimeter. Earth would speak. Earth would not trust, and Earth would be ready. Back in orbit, Elias received the order with little surprise. He immediately sent encrypted commands across the defense network. Human cruisers changed position. Drone fleets launched from hidden bays in the moons of Jupiter. Automated fortresses woke from silent mode, their guns unfolding like metal flowers in the dark. Then, finally, the alien convoy answered again. This time the signal was stronger. Taylor appeared seated, shoulders lower than before, exhaustion plain in every movement. "You may halt at the designated position near Jupiter," Elias said. "Any ship advancing beyond that line, without authorization, will be fired upon." Taylor bowed its head. "Understood. You requested sanctuary. You will now explain everything." The alien lifted its eyes slowly. There was grief in them, and something deeper, something close to dread. "We are the last organized fleet of the Valari Union," Taylor said. "6 months ago, our border worlds went silent. Then our colonies fell. Then our home stars burned. We sent fleets. None returned." The bridge behind Taylor was silent now. Everyone there seemed to be listening. "Our enemy does not negotiate," Taylor continued. "It does not demand surrender. It does not claim territory. It simply follows. It hunts. It erases." Elias said nothing. Taylor's voice dropped. "We went to the Council worlds. They closed their gates. We went to old allies. They destroyed the jump beacons behind them. We went to neutral systems. They fled before we arrived." The alien leaned closer to the camera. "And then we found something in our oldest archives. Something buried in records so old that many believe they were myth. On the command deck of Aegis, no one moved." Taylor's next words landed like falling iron. "Long before our species entered the stars, there were stories told across many worlds. Stories of a civilization that fought the dark between galaxies and survived." Elias felt every eye on his deck shift toward him, though no one spoke. Taylor continued, barely above a whisper now. "We came to Earth because your name was in those records." The screen flickered. The alien's face hardened with desperate hope. "They did not come here to beg for weapons," Taylor said. "They came to beg humanity to tell them how it defeated the thing now following us." And at that exact moment, every alarm on Aegis began to scream. A new contact had entered the edge of the solar system. It was not a fleet. It was only one object, and it was bigger than anything human sensors had ever seen. The alarms on Aegis did not stop. They rose and fell in sharp waves across the command deck, mixing with urgent voices, warning tones, and the fast tapping of hands over control panels. Red light flooded the room. The giant tactical display changed again, pushing away all other data to show one new symbol at the far edge of the solar system. One contact. Unknown class. Extreme mass. No clear engine signature. Commander Elias Vance stood motionless for only 1 second. Then training took over. "Full combat alert," he said. "Wake all defense layers. Alert Jupiter Line, Mars Shield, Luna Bastion, and all planetary response fleets. Push civilian traffic to hard shelter routes now." The command deck came alive. Combat alert confirmed. Emergency signal sent to all intersystem platforms. Civilian lanes are clearing. Long-range optics coming online. Lieutenant Mara Chin turned from her console. Her face had gone pale, but her voice stayed steady. "The object is not using a normal drive. No jump flash. No burn trail. It just appeared at the edge of track space like it was already there." Elias looked at her sharply. "You're saying it crossed into Sol without detection?" "Not fully," she said. "We're finding strange distortions in older sensor logs. Small ones, like ghost readings. It may have been hiding in deep background noise for hours, maybe days. That sent a chill through the deck. A warship could slip through blind zones. A stealth vessel could fool some systems. But something that large should not have been able to hide from the layered net that protected Earth. Yet it had. On the screen, the object slowly resolved from a simple red symbol into a rough shape. Not detailed. Not yet, but enough to show scale. It was not shaped like any known ship. It looked more like a black shard, long and uneven, as if a mountain had been cut into a weapon and thrown through space. Mara zoomed the display. Small dots moved around it. Elias narrowed his eyes. Are those escorts? The sensor officer swallowed. No, sir. Those are pieces breaking off its surface. Debris? No. The officer's hands moved quickly across the panel. They're moving under control. The room went silent for a beat. Then Mara said what everyone was thinking. Those are smaller ships. The large object was not alone. It was carrying its own fleet inside itself. Far out near Jupiter, the damaged Volari convoy had frozen in place. Human drones surrounded them in careful rings. Heavy guns from hidden platforms tracked every alien hull. But now even those weapons felt small against the image growing on the screen. A message request flashed from a Volari flagship. Put Taylor through, Elias said. The image appeared at once. Fleet Speaker Taylor looked worse than before. The gray face was tighter now, and the dark eyes held no hope at all. It found us, Taylor said quietly. Elias did not waste time. What is it? Taylor seemed almost unable to answer. We do not know its true name. Across our worlds, it became known by many names. The Silence, the Hollow God, the End Ship. That is not useful, Elias said. What is it? Taylor looked away for a second, as if ashamed. We never learned, the alien said. Every fleet sent against it was destroyed. Every science team vanished. Every station that watched it went dark. It does not speak. It does not answer signals. It only comes closer. Mara stepped near the screen. How does it attack? Taylor's voice lowered. First, communications fail. Then guidance systems fail. Then power begins to die in sectors one by one. Ships drift. Defenses collapse. After that, smaller hunter vessels emerge. Boarding swarms. Machine forms. They enter cities, ships, habitats. The alien stopped. Elias watched his expression harden with remember horror. And then, he asked. Taylor answered like being forced to relive a nightmare. And then nothing living remains. No one on Aegis said a word. On Earth, deep beneath the mountains, the council chamber had gone quiet too. Elias could see their projected faces. In a side screen, Secretary General Leona Vale listened without interruption. Admiral Reese leaned forward with both hands on the table. Intelligence chiefs whispered each other in dark corners. Elias spoke first. You said your old records mentioned humanity. Taylor nodded once. What exactly did they say? The Volari hesitated. That there was once a war beyond the map stars. A war against something that moved without empire, without trade, without law. Something that consumed systems and left dead light behind it. Mara frowned. And humans beat it? Taylor gave a bitter, tired smile. The records are old, broken, and mixed with legend. Some said humanity sealed it away. Some said humanity drove it into intergalactic dark. Some said humans paid such a terrible price that they erased all knowledge of the war to keep younger species from searching for it. Elias said, We have no record of that. I feared you might say that, Taylor replied. Before Elias could answer, a voice came over secure military channel. Commander Vance, priority from Earth Security Command. The side screen brightened. Secretary General Vale appeared at full size now, no longer seated. That alone told Elias how serious the situation had become. Commander, she said, the historical branch has flagged something. 3 minutes ago. Elias turned fully toward the screen. Go on. Vale gave a small nod to someone off camera. Another image appeared. It showed an ancient human seal, worn by time and almost unreadable. Under was a line of text translated from Old Earth Archive code. Black Archive Protocol. Sole access restricted. Open only if the returning threat is confirmed. The command deck stared at it. Mara was first to speak. Returning threat? Vale's face had lost what little calm remained. This file was hidden inside a sealed pre-expansion archive under the Antarctic Vault System. It predates the Human Systems Accord. It predates the first extrasolar colony. The archive was not listed in any modern record. Elias felt his pulse slow, not from calm, but from focus. Can it be opened? We are trying, Vale said. but it is locked behind dead language security layers and physical systems built before modern network design that may actually protect it from whatever this thing does. Admiral Reese appeared beside her. Until that archive opens, we treat this as a live system defense. The Jupiter line will hold the first contact zone. No one allows that object deeper into Sol. Elias gave one firm nod. Understood. The call ended. Around him, Aegis shifted from fear into preparation. Humanity had something. Maybe not a weapon, maybe not an answer, but something buried in its oldest history had expected this day. That alone changed the air. Across the system, fleets began to move with cold discipline. From hidden docks near Callisto, 3 heavy carriers came online and launched drone clouds by the thousands. From the asteroid belt, autonomous missile barges turned toward the incoming object. Mars activated its deep orbit rail platforms. Luna raised the ancient defense shield above its shipyards. Even civilian stations helped by routing power into emergency nets, sealing sectors, and preparing refuge zones. Earth had not yet fired a shot, but Sol was becoming a fortress. Elias watched all of it with grim pride. Humans had spent centuries building layers of defense not because they wanted war, but because they had learned from history that peace only survived when protected. And somewhere in forgotten history, humanity had learned that lesson from something far worse than ordinary war. "Visual lock improving," said the sensor officer. The main display sharpened. The black object became clearer. It was enormous, longer than any dreadnought ever built by humans or known alien powers. Its surface was not smooth metal. It looked scarred, folded, and strange, like burned stone mixed with machine geometry. Dark openings ran along its sides in repeating rows. Around it moved hundreds of smaller forms, insect-like and fast. Mara whispered, "It looks dead." But Elias saw motion across the hull. Slow pulses. Faint red lines opening and closing like veins under skin. "No," he said quietly. "It's alive in some way." Then the first wave began. One by one, the smaller shapes detached from the main body and spread outward. The tactical display filled with them. Not hundreds, thousands. Trajectory? Elias snapped. The answer came at once. Direct approach to the Volari convoy and Jupiter defense perimeter. So it was ignoring Earth for now. It wanted the refugees first. Or perhaps it wanted to kill anything in its path before moving inward. Elias made the choice without delay. "Transmit to all Sol forces," he said. "Engagement authority granted at perimeter line. Protect Volari convoy. No hunter craft allowed past Jupiter." Several officers turned toward him, not because the order was strange, because it was human. The Volari had entered Sol uninvited, armed and full of secrets. Yet now they sat under human guns with a nightmare hunting them. Humanity could have pulled back and let the dark take them, but that was never going to happen. Mara's expression changed for the first time that day. It was not fear. It was something sharper. Respect. "All batteries acknowledge," she said. Near Jupiter, hidden platforms unfolded and fired. The first human rail strike crossed the darkness almost too fast to see. Then came the second, third, and fourth. Lines of white force slammed into the leading hunter swarm. A cluster of black shapes burst apart in flashes of metal and cold fire. Missile webs followed, curving through space in controlled storms. Human destroyers rose from shadow and opened with plasma lances. For one brief moment, it looked like the line might hold easily. The first wave of hunter craft shattered under concentrated fire. Wreckage spread across the edge of the Jovian defense zone. Cheers almost started on Aegis. Then the debris moved. Broken pieces of destroyed craft spun once in silence, then changed direction together. Mara's eyes widened. No, the pieces were not debris. Each fragment unfolded. Each fragment became a smaller machine. The broken swarm had not died. It had multiplied. Across the tactical screen, the number of incoming contacts tripled in seconds. And before anyone could even process that horror, every light on Aegis flickered. Once, twice, then half the command deck went dark. "Power fluctuation across sectors 3 through 9, an officer shouted. "External comm lag. Guidance interference starting." Elias looked at the giant black object on the screen. It had not moved fast. It had not fired a visible weapon. It had simply come closer. And now Sol itself was beginning to fail. Then one final alert appeared across every screen on the station in bright emergency red. Unauthorized signal detected from inside Earth's lunar archive grid. Mara stared at it. Commander! Something on the moon just woke up. For a moment, the entire command deck of Aegis stood in silence. The alert remained on every screen. Unauthorized signal detected. Lunar archive grid. Commander Elias Vance looked at the message again to be certain it was real. The Lunar Archive Grid was one of the oldest data vault networks humanity possessed. Most people in the modern human systems, Accord did not even know it existed. It had been built during the early years of space expansion, when humanity feared losing knowledge during the dangerous jump into the stars. The archives were meant to store history. They were not supposed to wake up on their own. Trace the signal, Elias ordered. Lieutenant Marichin moved quickly over a console. Streams of data poured across the screen. Signal origin confirmed, she said after a few seconds. Deep Lunar Vault Sector. Archive Vault 7. Elias frowned. Vault 7? Mara nodded slowly. That is the same archive system the Council just discovered under Antarctica. So the two were connected. Something hidden in ancient human history was reacting to the presence of the dark object entering the solar system. Put Luna Bastion on the line, Elias said. A new screen appeared beside the tactical display. It showed the command center of Luna Bastion, the massive defensive station built into the far side of the moon. The commander there, Admiral Sophia Duarte, looked calm but focused. Commander Vance, she said, we detected the same signal. Our systems confirm an automatic activation inside Vault 7. Is anyone inside the archive? Negative, Duarte replied. That vault has been sealed for over a century. It was considered historical storage only. Mara spoke quietly. Something inside it just woke up. Before anyone could respond, another message appeared across the screens. Archive access granted. Black protocol authorization. The room went silent again. The words meant something, even if no one fully understood them yet. Elias turned toward the projection of Earth's command chamber. Secretary General Leona Vale had returned to the channel. We see the same message here, she said. Our technicians just opened the Antarctic archive. The system responded immediately. What did it say? Elias asked. Vale did not answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a strange mix of fear and wonder. It says the threat has returned. No one in the room breathed. The words hung in the air like gravity. Behind Vale, technicians hurried around glowing consoles, while ancient files began opening across large screens. Some of the files were so old that the symbols looked almost like prehistoric code. Elias spoke slowly. What exactly is in those archives? Vale looked at one of the technicians. Show him. A new video file appeared across the main display on Aegis. The recording quality was extremely old. The colors were faded, and the camera technology looked primitive compared to modern systems. But the scene was still clear enough to understand. A group of humans stood in a dark room. Their uniforms were simple and heavy, nothing like modern spacesuits. The symbol on their chest showed an early Earth emblem used before the human systems Accord existed. Behind them was a massive viewing window. Outside that window was something very familiar, a black object in space. The same shape, now approaching the solar system. The officers on Aegis stared in disbelief. The recording began to play. A tired human officer stepped forward into the camera frame. His hair was short and gray, and his eyes carried the exhaustion of someone who had seen too much war. This is Admiral Jonathan Reyes. The man said, Commanding Officer of the Solar Defense Fleet. This message is recorded under Black Protocol for any future generation that might face the same threat. He paused for a moment. Behind him, the black object drifted slowly through space. We believed it destroyed, Reyes continued, or at least driven away from our galaxy. But if you are watching this recording, then our victory was only temporary. On the command deck of Aegis, every officer leaned closer to the screen. The ancient admiral continued speaking. The enemy you see behind me has no known species identity. It does not communicate. It does not negotiate. It does not conquer territory like a normal empire. It simply erases life from star systems. Mara whispered, exactly what the Volari described. Elias nodded slowly. The old admiral continued. Our scientists believe the entity is not a single ship. It is a machine intelligence older than our civilization, possibly older than many civilizations. It builds new hunter machines from destroyed matter and spreads like mechanical plague across space. The video flickered slightly. 32 human colonies were lost during the war. 11 alien civilizations disappeared completely before we even understood what we were facing. On the command deck, several officers exchanged uneasy looks. 32 colonies. That number alone was horrifying. The admiral took a slow breath. We eventually learned something important. The entity does not attack randomly. It follows energy patterns created by advanced civilizations. The more technology a species builds, the brighter it appears to this thing. So it hunts intelligent life, Mara said quietly. Yes, Elias replied. On the screen, Admiral Reyes continued. We cannot destroy it completely. Its main body is protected by layers of self-repair material and autonomous weapons. Direct assault always failed. The Admiral's expression hardened. So humanity created a trap. The video paused for a moment as the recording system shifted to another scene. Now the screen showed a massive human fleet surrounding the dark object. Dozens of early warships, far older than anything currently used by modern fleets. They were firing everything they had. Rail cannons, missile storms, nuclear bursts. The dark object barely reacted. Then a new structure appeared on the screen. A giant artificial ring floating near the black object. Elias leaned forward. What is that? The Admiral answered. A gravitational containment field. It was designed to trap the entity in a collapsed spatial pocket. The officers on Aegis stared at the old recording. Humanity had once built a weapon capable of folding space itself. The trap worked. Admiral Reyes said in the recording, but only partially. The entity was pushed away from our galactic region rather than destroyed. The Admiral looked directly into the camera. If it returns, you must rebuild a containment system. That is the only known way to stop it. The recording ended. The screen went dark. On the command deck, the silence lasted almost 20 seconds. Finally, Mara spoke. So, humanity fought this thing before. Yes, Elias said quietly. And we forgot about it. Elias did not answer. Across the solar system, the battle near Jupiter was getting worse. The hunter machines continued multiplying. Every destroyed drone split into smaller ones. Human fleets were fighting hard, but the swarm kept growing. And behind it all, the massive black object continued drifting closer. Slow, silent, unstoppable. A new transmission suddenly appeared on the screen. Fleet speaker Taylor again. But this time, the alien looked stunned. You knew, Taylor said slowly. Your species knew about this thing all along. Elias looked at the alien. No, he said honestly. We forgot. Taylor stared at him in disbelief. You fought the destroyer of civilizations and forgot? Elias looked back at the tactical screen, where the black object loomed larger with every passing minute. Apparently, he said, our ancestors believed it was gone forever. The alien shook its head slowly. Then we may all die because of that mistake. Before Elias could respond, another message appeared on the screen. This one came from the Lunar Archive System itself. Containment protocol, reactivation required. Below it appeared a list. 6 ancient construction sites. 6 locations across the solar system, all marked as gravitational anchor stations. Mara read the list quickly. Earth orbit, Mars orbit, Jupiter orbit, Saturn orbit, Neptune orbit. She stopped. The final location blinked on the screen. In the center of the sun, the room fell silent again. Elias stared at the list. To rebuild the ancient containment trap, humanity would have to activate all 6 stations. But the last one required building a structure inside the sun itself. And the enemy was already entering the system. Mara looked at him slowly. Commander, Elias nodded. Yes, we do not have time. Outside the station windows, distant flashes from the battle near Jupiter lit the darkness of space. And far beyond that battlefield, the ancient destroyer continued its slow, unstoppable approach toward the heart of human civilization. The situation across the solar system changed from defense to desperation. On the command deck of Aegis, Commander Elias Vance stared at the 6 glowing points on the tactical map. Each point marked one of the ancient gravitational anchor stations mentioned in the Black Archive. Those stations were the key to rebuilding the containment trap that humanity had once used against the destroyer. But there was a problem. Most of those stations had been forgotten for centuries. Some might not even exist anymore. Lieutenant Marachin broke the silence. We should confirm if the stations are still there. Do it, Elias said. She quickly began scanning through the archive data, connected to the old protocol. New maps appeared across the command screen, revealing ancient construction records that had been hidden from modern systems. The first marker blinked. Anchor Station 1, Earth orbit. Mara nodded slightly. That one exists. Elias frowned. Where? Hidden inside the old orbital ring fragments, she explained. It was disguised as part of early space infrastructure. That made sense. Long before humanity had expanded across the stars, Earth had built a massive orbital ring to support early space travel. Most of it had been dismantled over the centuries, but some sections were still floating quietly above the planet. One of those pieces had secretly been part of the containment system. Status? Elias asked. Still intact, Mara said. It's dormant but operational. 1 down. 5 to go. The next marker flashed. Anchor Station 2, Mars orbit. Mara scanned the record again. That one is inside the Martian defense grid. Elias nodded. Mars had always been one of humanity's strongest military worlds. It made sense that an important part of the trap would be hidden there. Send a priority message to Mars Command. Elias said, tell them to activate the station immediately. Already sending. The next marker appeared. Anchor Station 3, Jupiter orbit. The command deck grew quiet again. That location was already the center of the ongoing battle. Mara looked at Elias carefully. The station is inside the asteroid belt near Jupiter's orbit. Elias sighed quietly. That area is full of debris from the war. Exactly, Mara said, which meant the station might already be damaged, or worse, destroyed. But they had no time to check carefully. The swarm of hunter machines was still growing near Jupiter, and the massive black destroyer was getting closer. Elias gave the order anyway. Send drones. Find it. If the station still exists, activate it. Yes, Commander. The next 2 locations were easier. Anchor Station 4, Saturn orbit. Anchor Station 5, Neptune orbit. Those outer stations had been hidden deep inside mining facilities and scientific outposts. They had remained unnoticed for centuries because they looked like ordinary infrastructure. Human engineers across the solar system began moving quickly. Ships launched. Construction drones woke up. Power lines were redirected. The old stations were coming back to life. But then everyone looked at the final marker again, the most dangerous one. Anchor Station 6, Solar Core Interface. Mara said the words slowly. The final anchor must connect directly to the sun. Elias nodded. Yes. That means we have to build a gravitational stabilizer inside the solar corona. The room fell silent. Building anything near the sun was almost impossible. The heat alone could destroy most materials within minutes. Even the best human engineering projects only operated in distant solar orbit. No one had ever tried building something inside the sun's active energy field. But the old archive clearly said it was required. Without the 6th anchor, the containment trap would never activate. Elias turned toward the Earth command screen again. Secretary General Vale appeared immediately. You have seen the requirements? Elias asked. Vale nodded slowly. Yes. And she did not hesitate. We build it. Admiral Reese appeared beside her. Construction fleets are already preparing, the Admiral said. We have experimental solar engineering ships designed for energy harvesting near the corona. Mara raised an eyebrow. You built ships for solar construction? Reese gave a small smile. Humans like difficult engineering problems. That was true. Human civilization had always been built by solving impossible problems. But this one was different, because they had almost no time. The destroyer had already reached the outer edges of the asteroid belt, and the battle near Jupiter was getting worse. On the tactical display, the hunter swarm had grown into an enormous cloud of machines. Human fleets continued firing missiles and rail strikes, but the swarm kept splitting and reforming. The Volari convoy remained behind defensive line, protected by human ships. Fleet Speaker Taylor appeared on the communication screen again. This time, the alien looked both amazed and confused. "You are not retreating," Taylor said. "No," Elias replied. "You are building something." "Yes." Taylor stared at the tactical display where construction fleets were now moving across the solar system. "You plan to fight the destroyer directly?" Elias shook his head. "No, we plan to trap it." The alien's eyes widened. So the ancient record was true. "Yes." Taylor looked thoughtful for a moment. Then the alien spoke again. "My fleet will help." Several officers on the Aegis command deck turned in surprise. "You are refugees," Elias said. "Your ships are damaged." Taylor shook his head slowly. "We ran from this enemy across half the galaxy. Many species closed their gates when we asked for help." The alien looked directly into the camera. Humanity did not. That simple statement carried more weight than any speech. Taylor continued, "We will not hide while you fight our enemy alone." Elias studied the alien carefully. For the first time since their arrival, the Volari fleet no longer looked like desperate refugees. They looked like allies. "Very well," Elias said. "Your fleet can support the defense near Jupiter." Taylor nodded. "Our ships still carry heavy particle cannons. They may slow the swarm." "Every second helps," Elias replied. Across the solar system, construction fleets were already racing toward the sun. The lead ship was a massive engineering vessel called Helios Forge. It had been designed to collect energy from the solar corona and convert it into fuel for distant colonies. Now it had a different mission. Its captain, Commander Rena Solari, watched the growing brightness of the sun through reinforced observation panels. Even with heavy shielding, the star filled the sky like a burning ocean. "Distance to solar construction zone?" she asked. "For minutes," the navigation officer replied. The ship's hull was glowing faintly from the heat already. Behind the Helios Forge, dozens of smaller construction ships followed closely. Each carried parts of the ancient anchor system, gigantic gravity stabilizers, field generators, massive energy collectors, all built in extreme hurry. Commander Solari spoke calmly. "Begin cooling field deployment." External drones launched immediately, forming a protective shield around the construction fleet. Even so, the heat remained intense. If anything failed during the operation, the ships would be destroyed within seconds. But there was no other choice. Back on Aegis, Elias watched the progress across the tactical map. 5 anchor stations were already powering up. The 6th one was still under construction, and the destroyer continued moving closer. Suddenly, a new alert appeared. "Swarm breach, Jupiter defense line." Mara turned quickly. "Commander!" Part of the hunter swarm broke through. "How many?" "Thousands." The tactical display zoomed in. Several clusters of black machines had slipped past the defensive fleets and were now moving deeper into the solar system. Their path was clear. They were heading toward Mars. And beyond Mars, Earth. Elias clenched his fists. If the swarm reached the inner planets, billions of civilians would be in danger. He opened a command channel. "All inter-system defense fleets, intercept incoming swarm clusters immediately." Human warships turned sharply across space. Rail cannons began firing again. Missiles launched in glowing arcs. But the swarm was fast, very fast. And then something even worse happened. The massive black destroyer began to change direction. Instead of continuing toward Jupiter, it turned directly toward the sun. On the command deck, Mara stared at the screen. "Commander," Elias already understood. The destroyer had detected the construction near the sun. It knew what humanity was trying to do, and it was moving to stop them. The moment the destroyer changed direction, every command center in the solar system understood the same thing. The enemy had discovered the trap, and it was moving to destroy the final anchor before the containment system could be completed. On the command deck of Aegis, the tactical display showed the black object slowly turning in space. The enormous shard-shaped machine adjusted its path with frightening precision. Its new course pointed directly toward the sun, toward the construction fleet. Commander Elias Vance felt the pressure building inside the room. "Time to solar anchor completion?" he asked. Lieutenant Marachin checked the engineering feed. "Helios Forge reports 43% construction complete." Elias frowned. "That is not enough." "No," Mara said quietly. "If a destroyer reached the sun before the anchor station was finished, the entire containment plan would fail. And if that happened, there would be nothing left to stop the machine from entering the inner system." Another message arrived from Helios Forge. Commander Rena Solari appeared on the screen, sweat visible on her forehead despite the controlled environment of the ship. "The destroyer has changed course," she said immediately. "Yes," Elias replied. "We see it." Solari glanced back at the blazing sun through the observation window. Behind her, "We are pushing construction speed to maximum," she said. "But the materials are under extreme stress. The corona heat is damaging several assembly drones." "How long do you need?" Elias asked. Solari hesitated for a moment. "At least 30 minutes." Mara looked at the tactical display. The destroyer was moving slowly, but its speed was constant. "Estimated arrival at solar construction zone," she said. 22 minutes. The room fell silent again. They did not have enough time. Solari understood the situation immediately. "If the destroyer reaches us before the anchor is finished, it will destroy the entire construction fleet," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. Solari nodded slowly. "Then we will continue building until the last possible moment." The transmission ended. Elias looked around the command deck. "Prepare intercept forces." Mara understood instantly. "You're going to attack the destroyer?" "No," Elias said. "We're going to slow it down." The goal was not victory. The goal was time. Across the solar system, new orders spread rapidly through the human defense network. Every available fleet moved toward the path of the destroyer. Mars Defense Fleet, Asteroid Belt Patrol, Outer Mining Security Squadrons. Even long-range exploration ships armed only with basic weapons were ordered to join the effort. The mission was simple: delay the destroyer, give the solar construction fleet time to finish the anchor. Near Jupiter, Fleet Speaker Taylor watched the same tactical information appear on Volari command screens. The alien officer turned toward the human liaison standing beside the communication console. "So this is the moment," Taylor said. "Yes," the human officer replied. Taylor looked toward the distant star where the sun burned bright. "Then our fleet will join the interception." The Volari ships began moving. Despite their damaged hulls and exhausted crews, the alien vessels turned their engines toward the incoming destroyer. They would fight beside humanity, not because they believed they could win, but because running again was no longer an option. Back on Aegis, Mara tracked the approaching forces. "First intercept group arriving in 12 minutes, she reported. Elias nodded. The first ships to reach the destroyer would be the Mars Defense Fleet, 32 warships armed with heavy rail cannons and long-range missile batteries. Their commander, Admiral Liao Tanaka, appeared briefly on the command channel. "We will engage immediately," Tanaka said calmly. Elias respected the Admiral's quiet confidence. "Your objective is delay," Elias reminded him. Tanaka gave a small smile. "That is usually the most difficult kind of battle." The channel closed. Moments later, the Mars fleet appeared on the tactical display near the path of the destroyer. Their ships spread into a wide formation. Rail cannons charged. Missile bays opened. The destroyer continued drifting forward. It showed no reaction to the approaching fleet, no change in course, no defensive movement, almost as if it did not consider them a threat. "Engage!" Tanaka ordered. The first volley lit up the darkness of space. Hundreds of missiles launched in coordinated waves. Rail cannons fired lines of white energy that crossed the void almost instantly. The weapons slammed into the outer hull of the destroyer. Explosions flashed across its dark surface. For a moment, the tactical screen showed encouraging results. Small pieces of armor broke away from the destroyer's outer shell, but then the hull began to move. The damaged sections folded inward and reformed. Self-repair systems, exactly as the ancient archive had described. Then the destroyer responded. Rows of dark openings along its surface widened. From them poured another swarm of hunter machines. Thousands. The swarm accelerated toward the Mars fleet. "Brace for swarm impact," Tanaka said calmly. Human warships began firing point defense weapons. Laser grids, rapid rail turrets, flak bursts. Many hunter machines were destroyed. But as before, the broken pieces split apart and became smaller machines. The swarm multiplied again. Within minutes, several human ships were surrounded. Explosions began appearing across the tactical display. 2 destroyers lost. Cruiser Nova burning. Missile frigate disabled. The Mars fleet was fighting with everything it had, but the destroyer kept moving forward, unstoppable, still drifting toward the sun. On Helios Forge, Commander Solari watched the battlefield while construction drones continued welding massive gravity anchors into position. "Construction progress?" she asked. 68%. The engineering officer replied. "Push faster," Solari said. "We are already beyond safe limits." "Push faster anyway." Outside the ship, the sun's blazing corona wrapped around the construction zone like a storm of fire. Drones glowed red from the heat. Several had already melted and fallen into the solar plasma. But the structure was growing. Slowly. Back on Aegis, Elias watched the Mars fleet begin to collapse under the swarm attack. Admiral Tanaka's final message appeared on the screen. "This is Mars Defense Fleet," Tanaka said calmly. "We have delayed the enemy for 6 minutes." The Admiral gave a small, respectful nod. "Good luck." The transmission ended. Seconds later, the tactical display showed the last Mars warship disappearing from the battlefield. The destroyer continued forward, but its speed had dropped slightly. 6 minutes gained. Mara checked the solar construction progress. Solar anchor construction at 74%. Still not enough. Elias clenched his jaw. Next intercept group? Valari fleet arriving in 3 minutes. The alien ships approached the destroyer from multiple angles. Their damaged hulls glowed with weapon fire as particle cannons opened up. Bright blue beams struck the destroyer's surface repeatedly. The alien weapons were powerful, stronger than many human systems. But the result was the same. The destroyer's armor slowly repaired itself, and the swarm returned again. Hundreds of Valari ships were soon surrounded by the multiplying hunter machines. Fleet Speaker Taylor appeared one last time on the command screen. "We will hold it as long as we can," the alien said quietly. Elias nodded with respect. "Your people will be remembered." Taylor smiled slightly. "That is enough." The Valari fleet charged directly toward the destroyer. Their final attack burned brightly against the darkness of space. Back near the sun, the Helios Forge construction crews worked faster than ever before. "Construction progress?" Solari asked again. 89%. The destroyer was getting closer. Every second mattered. "Hold together," Solari whispered to herself. Then suddenly, a massive alert flashed across the engineering screens. Solar anchor core activated. The structure around the sun erupted with energy. Gravitational stabilizers locked into position. The final anchor station was complete. Across the solar system, the containment system finally came online. But the destroyer was already entering the sun's outer orbit. And now, the trap needed to close before it escaped again. The moment the solar anchor came online, every sensor across the solar system reacted. On the command deck of Aegis, the tactical display suddenly changed color. 6 bright points appear around the solar system, the 6 gravitational anchor stations that had just activated. Earth orbit, Mars orbit, Jupiter orbit, Saturn orbit, Neptune orbit, and finally, the solar core anchor. Thin lines of energy connected the 6 stations across the map, forming a giant invisible structure around the sun. Commander Elias Vance watched the pattern slowly stabilize. The ancient containment system was waking up, but it had one final requirement. The destroyer needed to be inside the center of the trap before it could close. Lieutenant Mara Chin checked the system readings carefully. Containment grid forming, she said. Stability at 40%. Elias nodded slowly. Where's the destroyer now? Mara zoomed the tactical display. The enormous black object had entered the inner solar orbit. The remains of the Volari fleet drifted around it like broken sparks in space. Many alien ships had been destroyed, but their sacrifices slowed the enemy again. Distance to solar anchor, Mara said quietly. Less than 5 million kilometers. That was dangerously close. But it was also exactly where humanity needed it to be. Elias opened a secure channel to the solar construction fleet. Commander Rena Solari appeared again. Behind her, the half-finished structure around the sun glowed with enormous energy. The solar anchor is stable, she reported, but the containment field needs full synchronization with the other stations. Can you do it? Elias asked. Solari nodded. Yes. Then begin synchronization. Across the solar system, the 6 anchors started exchanging energy signals. The ancient technology had not been used for centuries, yet it was still functioning. Perhaps the engineers who built it had expected this day. Perhaps they had known the destroyer might return. The tactical display now showed a giant circular field slowly forming around the sun. The destroyer was drifting directly toward the center of that field. For the first time since entering the solar system, the machine reacted. Sensor readings suddenly changed. The destroyer began releasing thousands of hunter machines at once. The swarm exploded outward in every direction. Mara stared at the screen. It knows. Elias nodded. Yes. The enemy had realized it was entering a trap, and now it was trying to escape. The hunter swarm rushed toward the nearest anchor stations. Their goal was clear. Destroy the anchors. Break the containment field before it fully activated. Anchor stations under attack, Mara said. Images appeared from several stations. Near Saturn, hundreds of hunter machines slammed into the defense platforms protecting Anchor 4. Rail cannons fired rapidly. Explosions filled the rings of Saturn. Near Neptune, automated defense drones began firing long-range plasma beams into incoming swarms. The containment system needed time to stabilize, but the swarm was trying to destroy it before that happened. Elias issued new orders. All defense fleets protect the anchor stations. Human ships moved quickly. Even damaged vessels from earlier battles changed course to defend the anchors. Civilian mining ships armed themselves with emergency weapons. Every available ship in the solar system joined the defense. Near Earth, Luna Bastion fired massive rail strikes that cut through several hunter clusters. Near Mars, surviving patrol fleets intercepted incoming swarms. The battle now covered the entire solar system, but the destroyer itself continued drifting slowly toward the sun. Mara checked the containment system again. Synchronization at 72%. Not fast enough. The destroyer was almost at the center of the trap. If it realized what was happening and reversed course, it might escape again. Elias made a decision. Transmit full power to the solar anchor, he said. Mara looked at him carefully. That will overload the stabilizers. Yes. They might burn out. Yes. But if we do nothing, the destroyer escapes, Elias said. Mara nodded. Understood. She sent the command. Inside the solar corona, the massive structure built by Helios Ford began drawing enormous energy from the sun itself. Bright waves of plasma flowed through the anchor system. The containment field grew stronger, faster. On the tactical display, the giant circular energy pattern finally closed around the destroyer. Synchronization at 91%, Mara said. The black machine suddenly changed behavior. For the first time since entering the solar system, it accelerated, not forward, backward. It was trying to escape. But the containment grid was almost complete. The destroyer slammed into the invisible boundary of the forming field. A shock wave of energy rippled across the solar system. Sensors across every station spiked into warning levels. The machine tried again. The second impact was even stronger. Several anchor stations trembled under the stress. On Helios Forge, Commander Solari gripped the console tightly. Containment field under extreme pressure. An engineer shouted. "Hold it together," Solari said. The destroyer tried a third time. This time, the impact produced a wave of gravitational distortion that bent light across space. But the field held. Back on Aegis, Mara stared at the screen. Synchronization, 98%. The entire command deck held its breath. Then, containment system fully activated. 6 beams of energy shot from the anchor stations toward the center of the trap. They connected directly to the destroyer. The black machine suddenly stopped moving. Not drifting, not accelerating, completely frozen in space. The containment field tightened, slowly compressing the area around the machine. The destroyer fired thousands of hunter drones in every direction, but they could not escape the field. One by one, the machine slowed, then stopped, then went dark. The ancient containment trap was working, exactly as the archive had described. Commander Elias Vance watched the tactical display carefully. Status. Mara checked the sensors again. "The destroyer is fully contained," she said slowly. "Energy activity inside the object is dropping." The massive black machine hung motionless near the sun, trapped inside the gravitational prison created by the 6 anchors. Minutes passed. Then the destroyer finally went silent, completely silent. Across the solar system, the remaining hunter drones lost power and drifted into space like dead metal. The war was over, but the victory had a heavy cost. On the tactical display, the number of destroyed ships was enormous. The Mars defense fleet was gone. Most of the Volari convoy had been destroyed. Hundreds of smaller human ships had been lost defending the anchors. Yet the solar system still stood. Earth was safe. Humanity had survived again. Later that day, a quiet meeting took place between Commander Elias Vance and the surviving Volari leader. Fleet Speaker Taylor stood inside the observation chamber of Aegis, looking down at the blue world below. "You trapped it," Taylor said softly. "Yes," Elias replied. "You saved your civilization." Elias shook his head slightly. "No." Taylor looked confused. Elias pointed toward the sun. "We saved many civilizations." The destroyer had not just threatened Earth. It had threatened every intelligent species in the galaxy. Taylor looked thoughtful. "Your ancestors fought this enemy once before," the alien said. "Yes." "And they left the trap, ready in case it returned." Elias nodded. "That was their final gift to the future." Taylor looked back at Earth again. "My people have no home left," the alien said quietly. Elias was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. "You do now." Taylor turned slowly. "Earth welcomes allies," Elias continued. "And anyone who helped defend this system today has earned a place among us." For the first time since arriving in the solar system, the Volari leader smiled. Far beyond them, near the blazing sun, the ancient destroyer remained frozen inside its prison. Human engineers would study it carefully, and this time, humanity would never forget the war that almost erased the galaxy, because some enemies only needed to return once. And the next generation had to be ready. The end.